Oil.
Family. Cowboy.
The most passé thing today is to zoom in on a window, but we did it every show. We'd just zoom into a window. It would be a different window every time we'd do one, because nobody could remember where his window was.
I always thought Dallas was a cartoon.
We called it a comedy in-house. We felt it was hysterical. The fact that it was also taken seriously was a plus.
Everything in Dallas was bigger than life. It's a little too over the top to be real, so that it's just a mindless fantasy.
Y'all watch your step. Be careful. Come right this way. Hi, y'all come on in. Welcome to the South Fork Ranch. As y'all know, the show became very popular very quickly, so fans came from all over. They started ringing the doorbell because they thought JR lived here.
I want out.
You ain't getting out, so you might as well learn to live with it.
JR was exactly as I conceived him.
Well, don't go away mad.
However, Larry Hagman brought to the performance a kind of lust that I think was at least 50% of the characters and the series' success.
I think the central proposition of Dallas was unusual for its time, to have a villain as the central character.
You call giving a Ewing birthright away fair? Not on your life.
It was kind of a working-class family who had made a lot of money. And were kind of straightforward people, as a matter of fact. They didn't mince words a lot. They lied, cheated, and stole, but, I mean, everybody does that, don't they?
Those of y'all that brought cameras or recorders, you're more than welcome to take pictures. We only ask that you just don't take our pictures off the wall. That's a joke. Y'all come on down. I'll meet you in Jock's living room and tell you a whole lot more. There are 4 bedrooms. The first one you'll see in just a moment is Miss Lucy's Yellow Rosa, Texas bedroom. And the quilt was made by an 80-year-old fan.
Mind if I sit down? I didn't see you out there dancing at all today.
I started Dallas when I was 17. I read in a casting magazine that they were casting for a miniseries called Dallas.
You have a girlfriend?
Nope.
But you do like girls, though.
And the description of Lucy was a manipulative little sex pot.
At the far end of the hallway, you'll see what we call Bobby's Western bedroom. It's all done in a real Western motif. You know, Bobby really loved the ranch the most. JR loved the oil, the money, and the women. We'll exit out a sliding glass door, go up on a balcony, and I'll tell you all about the outside of the ranch. As you look at the swimming pool, it's going to look very small to y'all. However, this is actually where all the pool scenes were filmed.
All of us as characters had functions. I had one thing I had to always be, which was ultimately I had to be good.
Sorry. How's Digger?
Fine. Stone's over.
Good. I'll get you a towel.
It makes it a very Greek tragedy type of clarity when the writers have to maintain a certain through line for all of us characters. Without, hopefully, sounding chauvinistic, the character of Pamela was a basic subheading of Bobby's good.
What do you get when you cross a Barnes with a Ewing?
I would say that Pamela Ewing was probably the strongest of everyone, and yet she was the sweetest.
I love you.
Now we're going to take a look at the master suite, and you're really going to love this. The bathroom has a his and her shower, his and her toilet, a redwood sauna, and a jacuzzi tub.
People say, do you mind being called Sue Ellen? And of course I don't. I felt that Sue Ellen was really a part of people's people's sort of weekly activities. You know, they had Friday night planned or their Wednesday evening planned around when the series came on. And that's very exciting to hear that you were part of television history.
It all began in 1978, when CBS commissioned David Jacobs to write an epic family saga loosely based on Romeo and Juliet. Instead of the Montagues and the Capulets, he came up with the feuding dynasties of the Barnes and the Ewings. The script was called Dallas, and the name and the location stuck. Executives agreed to make 5 pilot episodes, and the cast decamped from their usual Hollywood haunts to deepest Texas.
None of us, with the exception of Larry, had ever done a television show that stayed on the air for more than a few weeks. So Larry knew. He was prepared. Larry came down in this brown step-up hippie van. All the rest of us just took a plane down there and took cabs, and once we were there, we were stranded, basically, except for Larry. And Larry would say, "Hey, come on, jump on in here. Let's all go out and get some dinner someplace."
High spirits on set were actively encouraged by Leonard Katzman, the show's main writer, producer, and director.
All right, quiet, please, and action.
Leonard knew that Larry and I would and could do anything we wanted to, but that we would never jeopardize the quality of what he was trying to achieve on the show. So this one particular instance, Linda's all tanked up with things up her nose, and it was one of these emotional moments. I mean, it was very deep.
JR, it's time to go.
I don't understand it. Why couldn't we get along?
Leonard knew that we would play the scene, give him all the time on the film that he needed to close in, do the credits, do everything he wanted. He knew never to cut the camera. That was the first rule Larry and I told him. He said, never cut, we'll cut the camera all the time. You just keep rolling. We know where the scissors go.
I don't know where it all went wrong. Oh, Bobby, she's got to live. She's just got to.
But you have to understand how good of an actor Larry is. I mean, he was playing it right to the hilt, but in the back of his mind, he knew that I was going to cue him into this song. But it didn't bother the way he was working at all.
JR, would it help to sing that song we used to as a kid?
Yeah.
Do your balls hang low?
Do they swing to and fro? Do they itch like a bitch when you drag them in the dish?
The funny thing is not Larry and I singing this song, is watching the complete dissolution of Linda and how long she tries to think that she's supposed to still be at death's door before it dawns on her what's going on.
Working with Patrick and Larry is not easy. These two have just a razor-sharp wit and sense of humor about them, and they play off each other. And the most difficult part of every day was staying serious enough to get through the day without just cracking up and blowing every line.
All of the cast and crew would come to South Fork every summer. They would do all the driveway scenes, the barbecue scenes, the pool scenes, the breakfast scenes, everything they needed for the entire season. Then they would splice it all together. Actually, the house is about 5,900 square feet, and once you start walking through it, you'll realize it would have been almost impossible to film here due to the size.
How they could all live in one house and have that kind of money is beyond me.
There was no explanation. It was just, that's the way it was in Texas.
The eyes of Texas are upon you all the livelong day.
I remember going to the Dallas Country Club, and we were going to watch some football. I had a very kind of a cool assessment, and I don't know if I passed muster, but anyhow, when I got up to leave, I said, well, thank you, boys. I really want to thank you for having me here to watch football with you. And I turned around to go, and I was just going out the door, and I heard, and thank you, too, boy. And a chill went up my spine. I said, uh-oh, we're in for a little trouble here in Dallas.
You know, that was the other thing. I was making a good living. I am making a good living. And a lot of the people that I knew were making a living. We were not wealthy and slobbering money around. Before you ever drill a well, you come out here and you pay, let's say, $100 an acre to lease the mineral rights to give you the rights to drill on them. Well, after Dallas, people would want $200, $300 an acre. It got tough because we were portrayed like, well, you people are making money, you're greedy, you're treacherous, and I want more.
If you took Dallas for face value, you'd think Americans were really awful people, especially Texans. There was so much cheating on the part of the husbands and wives, and so much possessiveness and jealousness, and so much talk of money and the importance of money and deals.
Face it, Cliff. You're obsessed with destroying Ewing Oil, and that is sick.
No! I think Dallas was almost like a release valve to let off pressure. It was very easy for a public to have a figure that, like JR. You can't really walk around saying, I hate the president, you know. But you could go to your boss and you could say, I hate JR.
Nobody's ever going to get over JR.
Then as I continually got defeated by JR, I thought, you know, there has to be humor in this character. Because, I mean, otherwise, for this guy to have gotten beat up as many times as he did by JR, he would have had to have been lobotomized. Oh, I'm so tired of being everybody's patsy.
Who's there?
I remember Jim Davis, who played the father, saying, I just got a call from President Ford. He said, I have to know who shot JR. Betty Ford is anxious to know. Well, he didn't know.
Whoever could get their hands on a script to Dallas for the cliffhanger made a fortune every year that the show was on the air.
Something leaked out about a show, and I said, well, how much do they pay for something like that? And I think he gave me the figure of $50,000, and I said, well, it's not true. I only got 10.
Did I know who shot JR? No. I didn't want to know. I swear to God, you know, we all filmed. We all filmed a scene of shooting him.
Who's there? All right, take that. And that!
After I was shot, we did a gag reel where everybody comes up and shoots me. There's about 8 or 10 people.
Take that, you son of a bitch, and that.
And we knew if it went into the lab after they developed, it'd be all over the streets. So everybody in the family shot JR, and that way we pretty much protected about who had actually done it.
Take that, Peter Pan's son.
Larry even shot himself.
And that, son of a bitch.
At the end, I had rigged up with the prop man, and none of these people knew it. I had rigged up a vest.
Missed.
With a lot of holes in it, with a pump, and you could pump it and water would come out.
England had gone crazy over Who Shot JR. Bookies made a killing on the outcome, and the arrival of the Whodunit master tapes even made the evening news. The episode was watched by an estimated 350 million people worldwide.
Everybody wants to know who shot you.
Mm-hmm. Even the Queen Mother.
The fact that it turned out to be Mary Crosby was by design. We didn't want to lose one of the members of the cast. It was almost simple.
The truth is that to a degree never before seen in human history, one nation, the United States, has become the model to be followed and imitated by the rest of the world. American culture and technology dominate the world to such a degree that from television's Dallas to Disneyland to the Space Shuttle Discovery, an entire planet is watching and following us, and yes, America truly is the envy of the world.
Shortly after Dallas came on the air, Ronald Reagan became president, and I think that was the greatest thing that ever happened as far as Dallas was concerned, because I think Dallas turned out to be the perfect show for the first Reagan administration.
As well as Reagan, Dallas, and yuppies, the 80s saw a rise in gun use and abuse in America. The great gun debate still rages, especially among Dallas cast members.
Hi, I'm Susan Howard.
And I'm Steve Canale. Welcome to a brief look at the fundamentals of gun safety.
I was featured in a NRA program. They were looking to portray somebody like myself who's an average guy who enjoys firearms.
The NRA, or National Rifle Association, is never far from controversy. Vociferously opposed to gun control, its board members include such icons as Charlton Heston and the former Donna Krebs, Susan Howard.
Kids, if you find a gun, stop. Don't touch it. Leave the area and tell an adult.
The real danger is when a child considers guns a taboo or a mystery to be investigated when alone.
In the wake of recent gun massacres, calls for gun control have increased. The NRA, citing the Second Amendment of the Bill of Rights, the right to bear arms, refuses to give way.
The Second Amendment in this country was put there by, yes, a group of men who understood that the reason this country came into being was because it had the weapons to fight an oppressive government. And they said, yes, yours. God bless England.
This is what a disarmed country looks like. This is how little is left once free men and women surrendered their right to own a firearm. The silence was deafening.
I am, opposed to almost everything the NRA stands for. And I am a gun owner. I am a hunter.
The NRA's point of view basically is that you cannot give in, and that there's enough laws on the books today to enforce safer conditions and gun safety in America.
A gunman entered here screaming obscenities and began randomly shooting in the congregation.
Our culture is a violent gun culture. It is part of, our self-identity. We have to reach the confidence level in our identity as a country that is not determined by our ability to, at a moment's notice, grab a gun and commit mayhem. It's going to be, I think, defined by our ability not to do that, having done it for so long.
Will you just sit idly by while 200 years of gun rights are lost? Of course not, you say. Because you obey the law, you pay your taxes, you own guns, you believe in your gun rights.
I find the scare tactics of the NRA irresponsible. And so I have no problem. I'm totally for gun registration.
I think the honorable people are getting the wrong shrift here, the law-abiding, because it's the criminal that leaves his gun lying around for a 6-year-old to shoot another little 6-year-old. It's not the person who went down and bought his gun legally and taught his family the right way to use it.
I met a girl from Texas not long ago.
It was the decadent 80s, and so we wore designer clothes. And Linda Gray only wanted to wear Armani, and Victoria Principal only wanted to wear Versace. I wanted to wear anything that was fun. They really spent a lot on our wardrobe.
I love Nina Cerruti. I mean, truly, that kind of look. Simple elegance, if you will,
Oh, the clothes and the hair. Where do I begin? I had probably the biggest hair on the show. It was hot rollers every morning, and then throwing your head over, brushing it out, and then throwing it back, and it would be out to here. As you notice, I've toned myself down a little bit.
I think that was part of the appeal of the show. I mean, people looked at the show to try to emulate the fashions and the hairstyles, and I think that was part of the appeal. I don't think it was over the top.
Sex appeal. The women brought sex appeal. I mean, they were all really good-looking women. And all my mistresses were good-looking women. I mean, it brought tits and ass, which is what was very popular at the time, I still think is.
I know a gal that's awful sweet, I'm telling you, she can't be.
There was Victoria Principal who has a nice body, and one day she was in the pool swimming. I was shooting across her feet one angle, but I said, we should get a shot down. She said, don't do that. And I said, why? She said, you'll see my breast. It was so funny because she was married to a plastic surgeon, and she should have been proud of him.
The women on Dallas, they ran the gamut. They were powerful, but they were always chopped off at the knees.
Dallas really was a show about men, and the women were kind of we were kind of the bookends. Whatever they did, we reacted. They did something horrible, Sue Ellen drank, JR did something really dreadful, and I'd have an affair. And then I'd have another affair, and I'd drink some more, and I'd have another affair and drink and have an affair. So I had two things I was good at, right? No! I got bored after about 8 years of doing all this. I said, excuse me, can I do something else? And they said, very patronizingly, but darling, you're so good at it.
The women were always being set up as rivals. JR was always trying to set them up against each other. But again, at points of crisis, Miss Ellie would support Sue Ellen and Pamela would settle their differences and come together against the brothers. And so one of the soap elements of Dallas was this emphasis on female friendship and on the possibilities of women outwitting their husbands and fathers.
I can't thank both of you enough for bringing him here today. I really can't imagine what it would be like if I didn't see him, if I had to go back to jail.
Nothing makes our Victorias and Linda Grays and all those regular women on our show more appealing than having equally beautiful but less complete women as secondary characters coming in.
I think that it worked through the 80s and part of the 90s, but I think that women have changed, and I don't know if the same storylines would work today.
You probably think I'm easy now. I'm not. I just never met anybody like you before.
The women were decoration, and they were play toys, and that was what really made my character stand out and that I loved about it, because I was nobody's play toy. I was playing with them.
The popular notion that Dallas was about the kind of patriarchal success of JR is wrong, I think. JR was always almost being successful, and then one of these wretched women would bring him down again. And I think that was one of the key elements of the series' success.
Success breeds success. As the Dallas Star's fame reached global proportions, offers for work, all sorts of work, flooded in.
A great man once said, "Winter never fails to turn into spring." And though we're so different, you and I, when we're together, even the cold of December feels like the middle of May.
I'm a very successful singer. You'd never know it, even especially by listening to the record.
You are the land, I am the sea. You are in counterpoint to me, and we agree to disagree.
Because of the popularity of the show, you could have done almost anything, and enough interest was out there to do it. They had to write it in basically 2 notes, I think, essentially. And Mireille Mathieu sang her part in France, and then they sent that track to Los Angeles. I went in and sang my part. They kind of put it together. I went to Europe, and we did a video, and apparently it sold like gangbusters, but, you know, it was one of those things. It's like coming out with my own bar solo.
Yeah, I did a record, because at that point, anybody that was that popular, and it didn't matter if I read the telephone directory. It was just really so-so. It actually did very well.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I present Mr. Larry Hagman, would you please?
I did one record which sold 4 copies. I did sing my song at the Queen Mother's 80th birthday at the Palladium. Well, halfway through, I went up. I forgot my lyrics.
My recipe for the cake of good living, 1 pound of giving for 1 pound of giving. Oh, it'll all come back. I knew this would happen, you know.
So I started again and went up at the same place.
1 pound of taken for each ounce of given. sift out the scruples, and store in a jar. Hell, you know my name.
And my sphincter was about that big, man, and I'm sure everybody else in the audience was too.
Well, I blew it. Well, there you go.
I have a tape of it. I don't look at that tape very often, I can tell you.
And what a place to blow it into.
But one cast member didn't blow it. Audrey Landers, who played Afton Cooper, has had a hit with her musical career.
I had my first hit record in Europe in, I think it was 1983. It was around the time that Dallas was coming to Europe. From then on, I have had about 6 platinum albums and about 14 gold singles, and it's been a lot of fun.
And the fun hasn't stopped for Audrey. She's now branched out into children's television with the preschool program The Hug-a-Bug Club. The Hug-a-Bug Club is a family affair, and Audrey gets to share quality screen time with her sister, Judy.
Music is special. Music is magical. Music can change our moods, the way we feel. Music is magic. Music.
Audrey's mother, Ruth Landers, both manages and produces her musical daughters.
It's one language we all understand.
You don't tell me how to act. This is my house.
Fine.
Always fighting and threatening to walk out on screen, some actors actually did leave the series. Jim Davis, who played Jock Ewing, died after the 5th season. Miss Ellie then took up with popular singer Howard Keel. And then she changed heads. And changed back again. Big players also came and went, including Ian McShane and a burgeoning Brad Pitt.
I'm Randy.
But probably the biggest loss was Bobby.
The day that I died on the show, the final scene where Bobby died in the hospital room was, a horrifically affectionate, devastating moment.
It was really as though he was dying, because he was leaving us. There was nobody acting when those tears were falling in that scene. It was really very, very sad.
Don't leave me.
Despite Larry's earnest pleas, Patrick Duffy took off to actively pursue other work. The audience found it difficult to adjust to a Bobby-free Dallas, and so did the cast.
Larry Hagman felt that he needed Patrick to play off. It was not working for him this way.
Then when the ratings dipped and they were going to put Miami Vice on opposite us, and Miami Vice was going to kill Dallas, it was going to be this great coup for ABC, that's when the rumors started, and they finally approached me, and they backed up the money truck, and I came back on the show.
Good morning.
Stunned audiences discovered that Pam had dreamt Bobby's death.
Pam, what's the matter?
And so the entire previous season, all 30 episodes, with 1 wedding, 4 funerals, and a custard pie fight, were but a dream.
Oh, the famous Dream season. Oh, marvelous. Wasn't that good? Everybody liked that. I suggested as a final episode of the show that they go to a cemetery and everybody that had died comes up out of their graves. But they didn't buy that either.
I would say that the show lost 10% of its audience as a result of that. People were insulted. They said, if they're going that far, I'm not watching this show anymore.
The Dream season was the only way out. And we lost a lot of audience, but then, we stayed on for 3 or 4 years after that, too.
Yeah? What? Is he dead? Well, ask him. Not. Yep. But why? Who knows? But this means I'm in control. You bastard.
Although Dallas had become an integral part of British national culture, glitzier shows like Dynasty began to compete. Dallas, with its repetitious plots and somewhat outdated style, slowly began to lose its audience.
The cliche is there's only, 7 storylines or something like that that you can keep rehashing.
The stories are getting weaker. The plots, they just can't seem to get enough plots.
It was a nice ride, and it could have gone on. It could have gone on.
It ran out of steam at the end, and I think a lot of the characters ended up being tired. See, I didn't last that long, so I didn't have time to get tired of a character, but I think a lot of the people, they were ready to hang it up and say, I've done it.
I wasn't tired of it, however. I enjoyed the hell out of it. I would have gone on to this day if they'd wanted to. Damn if I'm...
But they didn't. In 1991, after 13 years, Dallas bowed out. The bizarre final episode showed JR being taken on a tour of what Dallas would have looked like if he hadn't been born. South Fork is a residential development. Sue Ellen is a sober and successful newscaster. And as for JR's nemesis, Cliff...
I am the acting president of the United States.
When you're sad and when you're lonely and you haven't got a friend, just remember that death is not the end.
Millions of people worldwide can remember where they were when JR was shot, in front of the TV, but only a few were present to witness the death of Dallas itself. 2 desultory reunion movies followed in the mid-90s, and the broadcaster announced it had no further plans for the series.
Not the end.